Today's news.
California flooding.
We're very worried down here on the peninsula.
Searching for boats.
You don't put your head in the sand like Joe Biden, and you don't try and be friends with enemies like Donald Trump.
Hungry on campus.
Food costs are so gigantic.
Good morning. I'm Steve Kathan with the CBS World News Roundup. It's another day of fierce storms in California, continuing a rough, damaging stretch that began over the weekend. CBS's Carter Evans has the latest.
A new round of wet weather slammed into California.
We've been there since 1960. I've never had anything like this happen.
In Sacramento, 2 people had to be rescued after their car got stuck in water.
If it was a little flooded, I would have done it. But that is a lake.
Chris Bales is Santa Barbara Fire Chief.
We're counting in the 6 to 7 inches of rain up in the foothills at this point. All that water has to come downstream.
In Santa Barbara, we've seen nearly 14 inches of rain since January. That's the 6th wettest start to the year on record. Los Angeles has already seen as much rainfall as it normally sees all year, raising the risk of landslides.
We know that the hills are saturated, so everybody's a little nervous.
The Kremlin today called accusations from Alexei Navalny's widow unfounded and vulgar. She blamed Vladimir Putin for Navalny's death in prison and vowed to continue her husband's work. The U.S. response to Navalny's death is now an issue in the Republican presidential race. CBS's Caitlin Huey-Burns is covering the run-up to this Saturday's South Carolina primary.
Former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley is barnstorming her home state and blasting former President Donald Trump on foreign policy. He's going to side with a dictator who killed his political opponent. In his first direct comments about the death of Alexei Navalny, Trump made no mention of Russian President Vladimir Putin in a social media post. Instead, he compared it to his own legal troubles, writing, "We are a nation in decline." I don't understand why Trump gets weak in the knees when it comes to Putin. Why did it take him so long to even mention Navalny's name? All we hear from Donald Trump is about his court cases and about how all this affects him. Haley trails Trump by more than 30 points, but she's vowing to stay in the race through Super Tuesday. If I were to get out of the race now, it would be the longest general election in history. We're giving them a choice. The voters like Michael Jones say he's happy to choose Trump.
Trump's the greatest president we've ever had. She has no shot in her home state.
2 of the largest credit card companies, Capital One and Discover Financial, have agreed to merge in a $35 billion deal. Here's CBS's Jolene Kemp.
Consumer advocates are saying this deal is concerning because it will result in more consolidation in the banking and credit card industries, which could mean less choice down the road for consumers. Now, Capital One is one of the larger banks and credit card companies, and Discover is one of 4 major credit card players, but it's the smallest among Visa, MasterCard, and American Express. Now, Capital One, of course, stands to benefit a lot from this deal, given that Americans right now are using credit cards more than ever before. And on top of that, the average interest rate on a bank credit card is the highest it's been since the Federal Reserve began tracking this nearly 30 years ago.
Overseas, a Moscow court has rejected an appeal by jailed Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich, extending his pre-trial detention period. He's been ordered held through March 30th, and he's denied the espionage charges against him. And in the UK, new legal action involving a jailed journalist and activist.
I'm Vicky Barker in London, where lawyers for WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange are making a final attempt to appeal a ruling ordering his extradition to the U.S. Assange faces 18 criminal counts for his alleged role in leaking hundreds of thousands of classified Pentagon and State Department documents. His lawyers insist he was just a journalist doing his rightful job.
The U.S. is reported to be preparing a UN resolution that would back a temporary ceasefire in Gaza and urge Israel not to invade the Rafah, where people from other parts of Gaza have ended up. 4 minutes after the hour.
Well, that's today's news. I didn't hear any good news, did you? I didn't think so. I guess it's all about perspective. The glass is half full. Well, as always, I'd like to thank you again for coming along with me on these Dash Cam News adventures. You know the drill. Peace, love, and all that hippie jazz. Bye-bye, everybody. It's 51 degrees in Tracy, California.